Save on Cox Internet when you add Cox Mobile and get fiber-powered internet at home and unbeatable 5G reliability on the go. So whether you're playing a game at home,
yes, cool,
or attending one live, you can do more without spending more. Learn how to save at cox.com/internet. Cox Internet is connected to the premises via coaxial cable. Cox Mobile runs on the network with unbeatable 5G reliability as measured by Ookla LLC in the U.S. 2H 2023. Results may vary, not an endorsement. Other restrictions apply.
The NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Vicki Connor. Together, we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And today, we're once again looking up at the stars, finding out what we can see in the night sky for the year ahead.
That's right, Vicki. It is January, so once again, it's time for my annual stargazing calendar, in which I round up all the meteor showers, eclipses, and other neat astronomical events that will be coming up. And on today's show, I'm pulling out a few particularly interesting happenings to highlight.
I'm so excited. Last year, I feel like time just flies by, but seriously, we talked about a lot last year. And so I'm interested to know how this year is lining up.
Well, it's like every year has its things. Some years are more exciting than other years. This year, we don't have a big solar eclipse that we can see here in Oregon. There's always usually a solar eclipse somewhere, but we don't get one of those. So we kind of have to settle for some of the less exciting, if that's not too cruel to these astronomical events, some of the less marquee events, but there's still plenty of cool stuff, I think, to see. For whether you're an astronomer with your own telescope, or if you're just someone who likes to, step outside on a clear, cool night and look up at the stars.
Yeah. Jamie, this past year, were there any in particular that you made a point to go out and see?
No, this last year I had a baby, and that really took up most of my nighttime. So I really kind of didn't do a lot of stargazing. But when I was on Mount Hood, I did make it a point to I was like, okay, it's going to be dark. It's the fall. It's going to be clear. And I made it a point to go out there and just at least look at the stars and take some pictures of the stars, and saw a little Milky Way up there, which was great. And something about just reconnecting with the cosmos in that way is really, really nice.
Yeah.
So even if you're not seeing a big spectacular event, or you're not seeing, the planets move, just seeing the stars, I think, is really cool.
Yeah. And I think relatedly, looking up at the sky at night, a lot of people were so excited about the Northern Lights and being able, so many times this past year, being able to see that. So maybe that'll be in 2025 as well.
I was told that this is not in the calendar. We're not going to get into too much, but I was told by an astronomer I talked to a lot, Jim Todd over at OMSI. He said that we should see some good Northern Lights activity this year. It's really hard to predict solar activity in that way.
Yeah.
But apparently we should see some of that happening. So keep an eye out for Northern Lights, updates. And, on Oregon Live, we always do posts about you can see them tonight. It's always a last minute thing. You have to be in the right place at the right time.
2025 is the year that I am not a complete grandma, and I will be able to stay awake late at night to be able to finally see them. Hopefully.
Well, that makes one of us. I missed them all. I missed them all last year, but
Same.
hopefully I'll be able to see some of this stuff this year. So we've got a lot of good stuff coming here. I'm going to take this in chronological order. So starting off like stuff that's happening right now. And the first thing on my stargazing calendar this year is a good old planet parade. And this is kind of one of those terms that, like, I think a lot of astronomers roll their eyes at. It's not one of these things where like the planets are in a straight line across the sky and you can see them all. It's more like, sharing the large scope of the night sky for an extended period of time. You're going to be able to see either with the naked eye or with a high powered telescope, or like, a really high powered telescope. You can see 6 planets. This started back in December and it's going to last through January. But Mars, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune are all going to be in the night sky together, which is really cool. Around mid-February, Saturn is going to drift off into the sunset, and Mercury is going to join the parade in March. So it's going to still kind of be this 6-planet parade. And then over the course of like the spring and summer, each of those planets is going to slowly drift out of the night sky, and we're going to be left with pretty much, I think, just Mars for a while. This is actually going to be a summer where we're not going to have a lot of planets visible in the night sky. Like, we go through these periods of time where like you can really see planets in the summer and periods of time when you really can't. And this summer, I'm told like we're going to really see like not a lot. It's mostly going to be like the moon and Mars for a bit. So I see them while you can, I guess. This is like the time you can really see a bunch of those planets. Again, not all of them with the naked eye, but you can really, know that they're there and appreciate that they're there. So if you're into that, go out and check them out.
What again, like what type of telescope are you needing for this?
It like really depends on the planets you're trying to see. Like, I mean, some of them, again, you can just like use a good pair of binoculars or like an amateur backyard telescope and you can see like, some of the biggies, right? But we're looking at some of these smaller planets, or I mean, there's even some like microplanets that are visible, that you can like only really see with like a high powered telescope. That's one of those things where like, if you're someone who just likes to know about the planets being there, you can be like, wow, there's so many planets there. But if you're someone who likes to actually be able to like spot them, there's a few that you can spot. You know what I mean? So like adjust your level of excitement accordingly.
Mm-hmm. And how often did you say this happens?
It happens frequently. There's always some gathering of planets like this. I mean, every time there's like a so-called planet parade, people get excited. Oh, it's a planet parade. It could mean 3 planets. It could mean 4. It could mean this time it's 6. I think upwards of like 7 or 8. It happens all the time. It's not like, a once in a lifetime experience. When there's a bunch of them, that's a bit more rare. My understanding, this is a fairly common experience, and it's just, I think, a cool opportunity this year to see all the planets in one spot while you can.
So cool. Is this something where you could go to like OMSI or somewhere in particular to use one of their telescopes to see something?
I think some of the best way would be to get up with your local like astronomy groups. Like the Rose City astronomers, for example, have a lot of events, star parties. Those are usually kind of in the spring and summer, which is when it's more reliably clear. That's the kind of the rub right now, is like a lot of gatherings of astronomers are happening when you have clearer skies. So like right now, when it's like maybe going to be clear, but probably going to be cloudy, your chances of seeing this stuff are small anyway. And so you have less of a chance of people gathering together to use those. But when you do get to a star party, if you're like getting into this kind of stuff, going to a star party with the Rose City astronomers or another astronomy group is such a good way to do it, because you have people with like their like, it's, amateur telescopes. It's not like, a big observatory, but like it's really high powered, good amateur telescopes, and they just let you use it. They just have them set up and people come through and they say, what are you looking at? And they say, oh, I'm looking at like, a moon of Saturn that's, coming around the rings. And you're like, what? Okay, cool. And you can take a look at that. And it's such a great way to sort of get your foot into this kind of community and to see what's possible with this kind of equipment. It's a really, I think, a great way for people to sort of dip their toes into astronomy in general. And it's such a giving community. So I love going to these star parties. I think it's always fun.
Amazing. All right. What do we got up next?
Okay. The next one, I think this is the marquee event of the year. This is the one that I'm telling people about. So technically what we're talking about is a total lunar eclipse, period. What the sort of the flowery name we could give it, because we love to give astronomical events flowery names, is the midnight blood moon eclipse.
This sounds like a Twilight book.
Oh my God. It really does. Okay, so we've got the total solar eclipse, which is, if you haven't seen one before, it is basically the shadow of the Earth falling across the moon. And as it does that, the moon will turn red before turning totally black. And so that's why it's sort of like blood moon. This total lunar eclipse is happening where in Oregon specifically, the moment of like greatest eclipse happens just a couple minutes before midnight. So like it's going to be reaching its like maximum intensity like right at midnight, which is like, I don't know, pretty cool. So you've got this like midnight blood moon, which is super metal, and very fun. I mean, I love a lunar eclipse. It's not as like showy as a solar eclipse. Everyone loves a solar eclipse, but I think lunar eclipse is very fun and very cool. And I love that this is happening at midnight. There's something so witchy about that. It's great.
Yeah. This is a time I can get behind. This isn't the middle of the night.
Right.
I can push myself a little bit to stay up this late. I'm here for this. And what day exactly?
This is going to be happening on this is going to be the night of March 13th. Okay. So, because it's like March 13th into 14th. So if you just stay up on the 13th, it's not a Friday the 13th. I saw that and I was like, oh, is it going to be a Friday the 13th midnight blood moon? No, it's not. It's like a Thursday the 13th, unfortunately. Still very cool. So you stay up on the 13th until midnight. You'll get treated to this really cool eclipse. Assuming that we've got like a clear sky. March is pretty iffy, but you never know. So as always with all of this stuff, just pray for clear skies.
I'm excited for this one. If you had like a dream spot to go out and see this, is this something you're just like walking out your door and looking up? Or
you can see anywhere. That's the beauty of a lunar eclipse, is you can see it like anywhere.
Yeah.
Wherever you can see the moon. Like I have a pretty good view of the moon usually out of my living room window.
That's nice.
I'll probably just be there, to be honest. But I mean, I've had some really great moon viewing at like the Oregon Dunes. It's a pretty cool spot.
That's so dreamy.
Yeah, walking out in the dunes. I did a supermoon in the Oregon Dunes once, and it was like just the bright, bright full moon shining off like the sand on the dunes was so cool. There's no one else out there. It was very fun.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Anything else we should know about this?
That's it. It's just going to be a cool show. If you're someone who likes to do, ritual kind of stuff with the moon, I know all of my sort of like Wiccan and Druid friends love to do moon stuff. Obviously a great opportunity to do some cool moon stuff. That's between you and your coven. So, do you. But it's a really cool opportunity, I think, energetically, for that community as well.
So cool. All right, moving on. What do we got?
Okay, this is one I don't usually highlight. The Lyrid meteor shower. So a bunch of meteor showers throughout the year. There's, just constantly meteor showers happening of various strengths. The Lyrid meteor shower is a medium strength meteor shower. I feel like this year is a really good year to see it, in part because the conditions are going to be really good. So this is going to be April 21 into 22 is when it peaks. It technically runs like April 15th to the 30th, but the night of the 21st and the 22nd is like the time to go see it. So it's going to be like a pretty moonless sky. There's going to be just like a waning crescent moon, but it's going to be down for most of the night in Portland. So if you can find yourself to some dark skies, not in Portland, but out in Eastern Oregon or just like outside the city a little bit, you've got the opportunity to see like this, pretty cool like mid-spring meteor shower. So I think the conditions are one reason I think this is a good one to see this year. And the other one is that a lot of the other big meteor showers, like the Perseids, for example, which we'll talk about in a second, aren't going to be great this year. So if you want to see a decent meteor shower in 2025, I feel like the Lyrids in April are going to be one of your best bets.
I've never actually seen a meteor shower before.
Oh, Vicky. Whoa, what?
Yeah.
You never seen a shooting star?
I mean, I've seen a shooting star maybe once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a meteor. I guess a meteor shower being you see a bunch of them happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I mean, I don't say this a lot, but you got to do it. You got to go out there and see it.
How often are you seeing them, Jamie?
I mean, I've seen a bunch before. I'm not seeing them that often, like regularly. It's not a regular part of my life, but I mean, they happen all the time. Anytime you're out there, like when you're out at Alvord for next time, for example, if you stay up late, there's probably meteors happening up there when you're there. That when if you get closer to the peak of a meteor shower, that's when you can see a bunch happening all at once. That's your best chance, especially if it's a really good big meteor shower. But if you wait long enough, you can see one or two, which is probably what you've seen before.
Well, again, my biggest thing is I don't like to stay up late. I'm in my bed. I'm in my bed missing all the meteor showers.
I feel you. I've had to like set an alarm for like, early in the morning and crawl out of my tent to go see some stargazing stuff. But then it was like, 20 degrees. And I said, no, never mind.
That's some heavy commitment you got to bundle up, get out of that tent.
That's why I'm like, okay, the Lyrids are happening in like the second half of April. That's like pretty good, depending on where you are. Like that's some pretty good odds for maybe some decent weather.
Yeah.
As far as temperature goes. So give it a thought. Think on it, Vicky.
I will. Okay, so going off of that, you said the Perseids could kind of come up short.
It's kind of looking that way. So the Perseids are like one of the strongest meteor showers on the calendar, and coming in August as they do, they're like the most popular one. Everyone wants to see the Perseids because it's nice out. People are up late anyway because it's summertime. The Perseids technically run from July 14th to September 1st, but they peak August 12 to 13 this year. And usually like they can produce up to 100 meteors per hour, which is like really quite a lot. This year, however, has a waning gibbous moon, which is going to be up all night. So we're going to have the bright light of the moon is going to drown out a lot of that meteor action. So it's not that you can't see any meteors, but you're not going to see the same kind of show that you're used to seeing with like dark skies, for example.
Gotcha. How bummed are you?
I mean, it would have been nice. I feel like what I've done before is I've gone up to like LL Stubbs Stewart State Park, just outside of town, and you can just go up to their little hilltop day use area. And I've watched the Perseids from there, and it was great. It wasn't like, chew, 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 tons all the time, but like it was enough that it was like, wow, really cool. There's a lot of meteors happening right now. So even if you go to like slightly darker skies, you can really see a good show if the conditions are right.
Yeah. All right. What else do we have?
Okay. This one is sort of like more for my like hardcore stargazing people. We're talking about Saturn at opposition. So yeah, I feel like I need some explaining here. So Saturn, it means that Earth is going to lie directly between Saturn and the sun. And that positioning allows Saturn to be visible all night, which if you're trying to see Saturn through like a telescope, for example, extremely cool. This is going to be September 21st, by the way. So that is one day before the fall equinox, which is also cool. And it's going to be happening when Saturn's at opposition. On the other side of the Earth, there's going to be a solar eclipse. So we have this sort of like convergence of things. There's like Saturn at opposition during a solar eclipse one day before the fall equinox. is just sort of a cool convergence of things. Mostly what Saturn in opposition is for is people who want to look at Saturn. If you've got your backyard telescope, this is the time to go look at a really cool planet. You can see the rings, you can see the whole thing. It's very fun. It's very cool. For everyone else who just wants to like know about planets being there, really cool to know, hey, this is Saturn's right there. There's an eclipse happening over there. And then the next day we've got the first day of fall. And there's something I think cool about that.
Really wondering what all the astrologists out there are thinking about this.
Yeah. I feel like I want to consult my astrology friends to be like, what's happening? What does all of this mean?
Yeah.
But I'm sure like all of the astrology apps will tell us when the time comes.
Oh my gosh. Do you own a telescope, Jimmy?
No.
Okay.
No, I live in an apartment in the city. Like there's not enough room for a bike in this place. So like I don't have a telescope now.
Yeah. No telescope, no bike. We got a baby though.
Got a baby.
Is in there.
She's very small. She fits.
Moving forward, tell us about a supermoon coming up.
Okay, so supermoons again are just moons that are like a little bit closer than normal, than average. So they appear a little bit bigger and a little bit brighter than normal. It's not really perceptible by the human eye. You can't really tell. Anyone who's like, oh yeah, that's a supermoon is lying to you. It's not true. But it's cool to know about, and people who like the moon love this kind of thing. This year, there's a couple of supermoons, but one of them is what's called an extreme supermoon. Again, this is just like it's just a word. It's not a scientific term, but an extreme supermoon is one that is like even closer and even bigger, essentially. This is a term that was defined by the astrologer, not an astronomer, but the astrologer Richard Null, who coined the term supermoon. And on his sort of famous chart of supermoons that he made, he included that a couple of them were these extreme supermoons. And that is going to be this year's extreme supermoon on November 5th. So this is just to say, like, if you're a supermoon person, hey, this is an even supermoon. This is going to be a good one. So I think that, people think about like the big moons, the big bright moon. The best time to see that is right as it's rising. So if you really want to get that full experience of like being in awe of the moon, then you just look up what time the moon rises and find yourself with a good, clear look at the horizon, or even just being in the city. I see this all the time, just driving home and the moon rises up over like downtown Portland. And I'm like, oh my God, the moon is huge. It's not actually huge. It's just, it's like an optical illusion that happens when the moon is low on the horizon.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool experience when it's a little bit bigger and brighter than usual. Then it can really be this like special, awesome kind of moment.
Totally. I've had so many of those times where I'm driving and I see the moon rising and I'm like, holy crap. And then like by the time I get home, it's it's much smaller.
Just a regular moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened to that enormous moon that was there? Same moon. Yeah. So it's one of the, I go back and forth about the supermoon and how excited to get about it. But I think, I was talking to, again, our astronomer friend at OMSI, Jim Todd, who said, like it gets people excited about the moon. It gets people excited about the night sky. And as someone who, his whole job is getting people excited about the night sky, he was like, I think it's great. Yeah. He said the supermoon is such a better word than like, the moon at perigee, which is like the scientific term. He's like, that's accurate, but like, it's not supermoon.
Yeah.
You're not going to get people clicking on headlines with like the moon at perigee, so I think it's fine. I think there's some hate for supermoons out there. And I do understand the frustration with it, but you gotta love a supermoon. Come on. That's a great word.
Exactly. All right. So wrapping up 2025, what should we be looking for?
One more meteor shower to put on your calendar. I do every year. December 13th to 14th is the peak of the Geminid meteor shower. everyone talks about the Perseids, but the Geminids are like the biggest meteor shower of the year. Upwards of 120 meteors per hour. The meteors are known to be bright and intensely colored. It's like a spectacle, but it's in December, and here in Oregon, we don't ever get to see it.
Boo.
It's really a time of year when like even people are like, oh, I'll go out to Eastern Oregon. I'm sure the skies will be clear there, but like the skies aren't reliably clear in Eastern Oregon in December.
Yeah.
You really have to get lucky or go see it somewhere else, I guess. So the conditions this year, for what it's worth, should be pretty good. There's going to be a waning crescent moon. That's going to be, it's not going to rise until like 2:40 in the morning. So like from, darkness until then, we have really nice dark skies for this meteor shower.
Okay.
So if under some wacky climate change or not based weather happening where we have clear skies on December 13th to 14th, go out there, see the Geminids, have something to brag to your family about during the holidays.
All right, Jamie. Well, out of all of these that we just cycled through, what kind of comes at the top of your list?
I got to say it's the midnight blood moon eclipse is number one. I'm kind of into this Saturn at opposition. If I know someone with a telescope, I want to go see Saturn. I think it's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just, get some binoculars out and be like, can I make out the ring?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. I'm excited about the Lyrid meteor shower. I think that should be a fun one. It's a good opportunity, I think, to look for a meteor shower that you don't normally look for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So those are my top three this year. And again, no solar eclipse to think about, but I think it's a good opportunity to focus on some of these smaller events. The solar eclipses that happen tend to overshadow, no pun intended, a lot of these more sort of smaller astronomical events.
Yeah. I'm also really looking forward to the midnight blood moon.
Oh yeah. And people are going to be talking about it. That's one of those ones where like our social media team is going to be like, we need midnight blood moon eclipse content.
Yeah, exactly. With a name like that, I'm like almost like, can it even live up to its own name?
It's supposed to be like honestly really good. Like I was talking to Jim Todd about this, and he was like, no, it's supposed to be like a really good one.
Okay.
Like we're gonna have not every total lunar eclipse you get like a lot of shadow on the moon, but this one's supposed to be like a lot. So I think it again, if skies are clear, it should be a really good show.
Amazing. Well, Jamie, thanks so much for sharing all of your astronomy knowledge with us once more and giving us the rundown for the year.
Absolutely. Happy stargazing, everyone.
Yeah.
I think this will do it for us for today. Until next time, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel, as well as HereIsOregon.com.
Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show. And if you want to support this podcast as well as our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find details at OregonLive.com/pod support. Also, if you're a fan of the show and you're interested in potentially sponsoring it, you can get in touch with our marketing people at advertise@oregonian.com. This episode of the show is produced by me, Vicki Connor, alongside Jamie Hale.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.